Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the 13th episode of Rowen Reports with Dr. Robert J. Rowen. Today, we welcome Dr. Howard Robbins back to the show for a second conversation, with hopefully many more to come. Let us know what you think in the comments of this video, and if you'd like to support this podcast directly, Dr. Rowen is now on Patreon. You can find him there and visit our generous sponsors by following the links in the description below. Before we jump in, we would like to give a special thank you to our sponsor, PROMOLIFE, bring you closer to the benefits of ozone therapy. Proudly rooted in the USA, PROMOLIFE is at the forefront of assembling ozone therapy generators designed for both personal and professional use right here on American soil. Meticulously handcrafted and precision calibrated, each ozone generator speaks quality and reliability. PROMOLIFE has simplified the ozone therapy process by offering a complete line of high-quality accessories that allow you to use ozone in ways you never thought possible. Don't miss out and explore the entire collection of cutting-edge offerings at www.promolife.com/ozone. Make sure you use the coupon code in the description of this podcast for an exclusive discount towards your journey to enhanced well-being. I am also excited that our friends at shopc60.com are helping to sponsor this video. If you haven't heard of C60 before, also known as Carbon 60, it is a powerful antioxidant that helps to optimize mitochondrial function, fight inflammation, and neutralize toxic free radicals. I'm a big fan of using C60 in conjunction with the keto and intermittent fasting lifestyle to support the immune system, help the body detox, and increase energy and mental clarity. If you are over the age of 40 and you'd like to kick fatigue and brain fog to the curb this year, visit shopc60.com. Again, that's shopc60.com and use the coupon code in the description for 10% off your first order and take control over your health today. This episode is also brought to you by Simply O3. Did you know ozone therapy has been a transformative medical approach for over 100 years? Used for enhancing immune function, boosting energy, and improving blood flow, it is a powerhouse for maintaining health. Today, over 2,500 medical studies back its benefits, and it's especially effective before workouts, reducing fatigue. Curious to try? Visit simplyO3.com and explore the world of ozone therapy. Use the code in the description of this podcast for 10% off everything they offer, like the Simply O3 3.0 Complete Kit. Begin your journey to better health today. Last, but certainly not least, this episode is brought to you by NORDIC Health Solutions. Founded in Annapolis, Maryland in 2009, NORDIC Health Solutions is a leading biological medicine company offering a diverse range of healing modalities. Their devices provide the body with the energy and tools needed for healing, repair, and disease prevention through pulse electromagnetic frequencies, light, temperature, and gases. NORDIC Health Solutions devices excel in both energy medicine and light medicine, aka photobiomodulation. The red light bed offers unmatched power and frequencies at half the price of the competitors, and the Hercules Smart Thermal Laser is exceptional for pain management. Their motto is to outpower and undercut the cost of the competition. Finally, ozone therapy, including home ozone generators and the renowned Zotzman Ozone Hyperbaric High Dose 2000 for clinical use, delivers impressive results. Physicians can attend quarterly ozone training workshops in Santa Rosa, California with Dr. Rowen and Dr. Sue. Learn more about NORDIC Health Solutions and their mission at www.nordichealthsolution.com. I do want to mention that you can also find the probiotics that Dr. Howard Robbins mentions in this episode by following the links in the description below. We have a discount code in there for you guys to get 20% off, and we'll also get a small commission for the sale. So support this podcast, support your body, support your wallet, save some money, and follow the links below to get Dr. Robbins' probiotics, and you'll again be able to follow the links to get to the website and use a coupon code down there for 20% off your entire order. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 13th episode of Rowen Reports with Dr. Robert J. Rowen. We have back on the podcast for the second time Dr. Howard Robbins, also an expert in ozone and oxidation therapy. So, Dr. Rowen, I'll let you go ahead and open us up here.
Thank you. Well, I want to introduce or reintroduce one of my best friends ever, Dr. Howard Robbins. I call him my Sierra Leone blood brother because we went to Africa together during the Ebola epidemic to try to conquer Ebola. And I'll summarize what happened, but I want to stick his rib a little bit. When I told him I wanted to go to Africa for the Ebola epidemic, he cursed at me. He said, "Are you out of your effing mind? No way." And I said, "Fine, Howard, I'm going to go and I'm going to take your method to treat." And what happened after that, Howard?
I hung up on you instantly. And then about 15 seconds later, I called you back and I said, if you think you're going to get all the fame and glory using my method without me, you're out of your mind. We're going.
So we did go. And we've told this story to the audience before. The government initially welcomed us with open arms, went out of their way for us. We even met the president of the country and his Ebola czar, Paulo Conte. And you left early. I went out to the Ebola treatment center, and while I was there to train doctors, a call came in canceling everything. And I felt like I was kicked in the gonads. I lost it, and I said, there's going to be deaths in this room. And there were. But the doctors and nurses lined up to be trained anyway. And one of those doctors that was trained eventually got Ebola from a needle stick. And he was able to treat himself clandestinely without the government knowing. And he recovered almost instantly. And we got to 4 more people. All of them recovered, unheard of in Ebola, and only 5 people, all of them recovered in an epidemic with a 60% mortality rate. It was statistically significant with just 5 people. You'll never, ever see a study or a report like that. The chances of that happening by chance is about 1%. And in medicine, statistical significance is at the 5% level. So I want to thank you again for risking your life to go with me. And now we'll turn this over to you. We're going to talk about ozone today and your product, Doctor's BIOME, which I happen to have right in front of me because I take it most every day. So let's talk about ozone first, and just give us a quick synopsis on ozone, what you do with it, and the kind of results you've seen with it with your method.
So everybody, thank you for having me here. And yes, Robert is one of the 2 most important men in my life, closest friends, to say the least. After Sierra Leone, that was it. We bonded. And ozone, so let's get right into ozone. Ozone is and I say this so that my patients can understand certain things. I think it'll help everybody. Ozone is a gas. It's not a liquid. And when we fill a syringe in the office, for example, it may look empty, but it's not. It's filled with medical grade oxygen and O2, which has no odor, and ozone, O3, made from that oxygen, which has a very distinct smell. But it's the extra O that does all the work. When ozone enters your blood, it virtually destroys every virus, fungus, yeast, mold, bacteria, parasite, toxin, and harmful free radical that's in your body. It'll even remove toxic metals from your body, and at least one of the methods of intravenous ozone therapy, it'll take it off nerve tissue, and that's where all the damage is done by toxic metals, and no other form of what's called chelation therapy can do that. I'm ending right...
Howard, question.
Sure.
How do you know that it's taking metals off of the nerve tissue?
Okay, two ways. One, we see an increase of the metals I guess in an oxide form in the urine analysis that gets done. So that increase is saying metal is coming out. The next way we know, we believe we know at least, is clinically. People start to have diminishing adverse symptoms where they had neuropathies and whatnot that might have been caused by it. We know it bypasses the blood-brain barrier because it's oxygen in essence, and that can get past it where pharmaceuticals may not. And thus, we've been able to clean out brains, so to speak, of lead and mercury and aluminum, and therefore we've seen benefits for people who are suffering from the adverse effects of it. Now, this is Robert's been doing it a few years more than me. We started in 1990. He started, I think, was 1986.
Exactly.
But this is the last quarter of our 34th year, my 34th year doing it. And as of this month, beginning of this month, we've done over 418,000 intravenous ozone therapies. It's actually more because some of the methods that I used early on for very short periods of time, I stopped using very early on. But we've done over 45,000 of what's called major autohemotherapies. We've now done close to 368,000 70,000 of the direct IVs. That's where we push the gas in directly. I've done about 1,000 of Robert's favorite method, he's brilliant about that, the hyperbaric high dose ozone with multipass, HBO3. And now I also use hemolumin, the ultraviolet blood irradiation, as an add-on to the 10-pass method, not by itself, but as an additional method, just to beef up something that is already amazing. And the results are phenomenal. Now, most people are concerned about a very important thing, adverse reactions. And I have to say, in all my years doing this, I've only had 2 patients that had an allergic reaction to ozone. So I stopped treating them, gave them a little Benadryl, got them over that. But we learned that something that's as hard to have happen as probably winning Powerball in this country can happen if you do enough of it. And yet nobody else ever talks about it at any of the forums and medical meetings, so it's obvious that it's an extremely rare occurrence. There are side effects. If you need them, I call them primary effects. If you don't need them, they're just side effects. Hair and nails grow healthier and faster. Skin takes on a healthier look because it virtually gets rid of all sorts of skin problems. People fall asleep easier, sleep better, need less sleep, more energy all day long. It more stamina and endurance, even for a workout in a gym, for example, right after a treatment. It acts as a painkiller, an anti-inflammatory. It's an immune system modulator. It stimulates, apparently, large numbers of natural stem cells in your body to be manufactured. And that's why I say it can repair the unrepairable and fix the unfixable. It has circulation benefits. It makes the red blood cells rounder so they flow smoother, easier, less viscous, more flexible so they can slip through narrowed, clogged, and hardened arteries better. And as a chelator, it can melt down calcified plaques and open up the circulation. So it has all these wonderful benefits. And one very unusual and very important one that can happen, and that's particularly seen with viruses. It is possible with ozone therapy, and particularly the direct IV method, to do what I think we call seroconversion. This is where you get rid of your need to manufacture antibodies, and the only way that might happen is if you completely have eradicated a virus from the body. So the body, it's as if you never had the virus in the first place. Okay, it's like getting an annulment from marriage. Everybody came to your wedding, they danced, they ate, they gave you a gift, but you were never married. That's an annulment versus a divorce, where you may have that virus completely eradicated, but you can't prove that it's truly gone, because you're still showing the fact that you were once infected with it, with the IgG antibodies. But ozone is able to do that in many cases. We've done it with Epstein-Barr virus. We've done it with the herpes viruses, the HSV1 and 2. We've done it with cytomegalovirus, another herpes virus. And very importantly, we've done it with HIV virus, where we've changed people from HIV positive to HIV negative. So not only do they show no virus in their body, it's undetectable when they look for the viral load, but they actually, as if they never had HIV in the first place. Pretty amazing. And there isn't any other medicine out there that has this kind of versatility and safety. However, I will say in most cases, it's S&S. It's safe but slow. Pharmaceutical medicine is F&D, fast and dangerous. Just have to listen.
Like the FDA, the Fraud and Deception Administration.
Right. You just have to listen to a commercial, and you have to wonder, why would anybody risk their life taking this medication to get rid of psoriasis or something that wouldn't kill them? And it's just insane.
Speaking of psoriasis.
Oh, yes.
We have had outstanding results with ozone and psoriasis.
Actually, with all sorts of skin conditions, including recently, I had two patients came in. In fact, I videoed one with something I had never heard, Grover's disease. It's like, wow, unheard of. And basically they were getting a rash, a pinpoint, the itchy kind of rash on their trunk, on their chest and their back. And within just a handful of treatments, it was gone completely. Absolutely amazing. And nobody has ever treated Grover's disease before. But its versatility is what makes, and it's actually safety and versatility, makes it difficult. Because how can you say it does all these things and it doesn't hurt anybody? It's unheard of in traditional pharmaceutical medicine in this country. So it basically sounds too good to be true. Robert, you like to call it the tomato effect.
Yeah, they don't. The tomato effect it was coined in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, as a therapy that works, but nobody believes it. And I want to comment on something just to elaborate. Even Vilio Bacci, it was the most famous ozone researcher of our time. Perhaps Sylvia Menendez came to equal him. She's from Cuba. Bacci was from Italy. Bacci said, I asked him why he came to study ozone, and he said, I heard all these things about ozone, that it was doing everything for everybody, and it's impossible to believe, so I decided to study it and find out why. And he found that ozone did all those things you said. Improves circulation, improves oxygenation, improves mitochondrial function. That means energy. So it's upregulating your energy status. It modulates the immune system so that if it's out like that, it brings it back. If it's out like that, it brings it back. And it went on and on. Now, if you've got a therapy that can do those things, you now have a non-specific therapy that, because of its action on biochemical and physiological processes, can treat a very large variety of specific diseases simply by upregulating, by getting your body to do what the Creator designed it to do. That's how I view this. And my quote is, I've seen ozone do more good for more conditions than I've seen in anything in conventional medicine in my life combined. Comment.
Well, Bacci's first published paper was in 1994, and basically he said, it was a very short paper. I don't know where it was published. I have it somewhere here. Gee, this sounds too good to be true, but there's a lot of smoke. Maybe there's fire. We're going to look into it. In 1996, he published the second paper he wrote on it, and basically said very clearly, this is so versatile. It does so much. I can't imagine why every doctor in the world isn't using it. It took him only 2 years to be turned from a skeptic but open-minded person into looking into it in a very serious way and seeing how beneficial it is. And so basically what we treat is, I treat two categories of problems: infectious diseases, okay, and diseases and conditions that may not kill you but will make you wish you were dead. And the only thing that while you can improve their health, it doesn't really seem to have any major effect, is on genetic disease. I have never been able to really do more than improve the health in people with cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy. On the other side, I have been able to eliminate multiple sclerosis and significantly improve Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, for example, which nobody really knows all the different causes of these things, though I have an opinion, and I think it's viral predominantly. But amazing benefits for a range of diseases and conditions that are just outstanding. Now, here's the interesting thing. Normally, when you take a pharmaceutical medicine, you take it every day, usually several times a day.
Yeah.
With this medicine, even just 3 or 4 treatments a week, I don't care what method you use, you're going to see benefits. Now, you can't do it much less than that and get it, but it may be possible, but even just a few treatments a week, amazing benefits. Robert?
I would agree with you using your wonderful method. However, you and I differed for years, because I said, I think my method is better than yours, and we clashed and butted heads until you actually came out, saw what I was doing, and had the treatment, and you went like this, acknowledging it. So I want the viewer to know, you do a form of therapy called, most of what you do is DIV, direct intravenous gas. And we'll talk about that because there's some controversy in the ozone world. And I was doing something that we had called MAH, major autohemotherapy. And you kindly pointed out, Rowan, you're not doing MAH, you're doing hyperbaric ozone therapy. And that's where we have a bottle that hangs like this. Blood goes up into the bottle, and we add ozone under pressure, shake it up, and then the blood goes back down from the pressure. That's different than what most ozone doctors are doing, which is called gravity ozone. We were getting outstanding results with this with 1 treatment a week, especially the multipass high-dose ozone. And in your method, it appears, at least from my observations, Howard, that you need to get them in at least 3 times a week. Would you agree with this?
Without a doubt. More is even better, but the problem that we're faced with what I call the blood methods of ozone, and you know I love doing HBO3, the 10-pass, nicknamed 10-pass on the internet. The problem is, and I'm being very kind now, 5 or 6 people out of every 10 don't have the veins for it. So what do you say to 5 or 6, at least, okay, I'll be very nice. 5 people out of 10 can have that method or the other blood methods of ozone, and 5 can't. Their veins are just too small. So what do you say to them? Suffer for the rest of your life, or if you have a life-taking condition, go and die. And I can't do that.
I'm in total agreement with you.
I have to treat people.
Absolute agreement.
And there's another thing, and this is important. Yes, with 10-pass and with EBU, the extracorporeal blood ozonation, oxygenation, RHP, that's where blood comes out of one arm, gets ozonated in a machine like a dialysis machine, and then back into the other arm. So all the blood in your body gets cleansed that way, as much as 2 or 3 times over the course of an hour and a half. What I believe, that those methods can't be used every single day. And every day that you don't treat an infection that's in the body, those viruses, fungus, yeast, mold, bacteria have an opportunity to regrow, regenerate, and duplicate themselves. I like to get rid of patients as quickly as possible. So by treating them frequently, it becomes kill, 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 and it doesn't give anything a chance to regrow, regenerate, and duplicate. Now, you don't do both those methods the same day, but I'll do a 10 pass once or twice a week, and all the other days, the direct IV, other than one day off a week, because you got to let the body clean out the waste. So we always take one day where the office is completely closed, so nobody can, slide in and get more than they need. And by doing that, I'm able to fix problems very relatively faster. So I'm in favor of it. Robert's main objection to direct IV is a very fair objection. The gas is a hot, excited gas on an atomic level. And on a physiological level, it's a dry gas. So it can irritate the inside wall of a vein.
Yeah.
And eventually, veins want to be left alone. Their job is not to have blood come out into a test tube for a test or into a bottle for therapy or go back in or have anything put in it, like even a saline drip. Veins want to be left alone. So if you're going to keep irritating a vein, eventually you're going to have a vein problem. Now, I did a study on this, and we did on hundreds of patients that we got back, so we have statistics on it. And very few patients with very large veins, only a very small percentage had any problems with the DIV method, even when I was using an extremely high concentration. Safe, but very high, on that edge of causing real vein trouble. Since then, we've lowered it a little bit, so we still get fast results without harming the veins nearly at all. And but only patients with very small veins had issues. Almost 90% of the patients, was 87%, I think, had some vein irritation on one visit or treatment or another. A small price to pay for getting your life back again and overcoming a disease or a condition that you thought you would never have or be able to overcome. But that's the worst. And in fact, there has never been a published paper that we know of anywhere in the world showing that when a trained healthcare professional used the direct IV method, that there was any harmful or lasting problem generated in anyone. Now, one of the most popular methods used, and I always like to be fair and honest, one of the most popular methods that have ever been used, that started around the 1980s, 1960 being discovered as a way, and what was it, Horst Keith, I think, discovered that. Is that right?
Horst Keith was doing it, but Horst Keith then developed the method I use, which is the hyperbaric method.
Yeah. But in the 1980s, Germany changed over to MAH, and that became
Hensler. I believe Hensler was the first to popularize this.
Exactly. And that was what the main method being used in mostly Western Europe and some Eastern Europe countries, where you take out blood, like giving blood to the blood bank. So it's a slow process. Then you hang the bottle, shoot the gas into the bottle, and let it slowly drip back in. And that was called major autohemotherapy. And very popular method. And even Bocci admitted this on radio. It helps everything. It gets rid of nothing. But he admitted it on the Gary Knoll health radio show, Natural Living. Now, on the other side of that, there were 2 published deaths from MAH in Europe, and there have been 2 published deaths from MAH here.
But I'm going to jump in. I've read those reports. As far as I'm concerned, they're pure frigging bull. You know what?
Yes, and I'm not disagreeing. I am not disagreeing with that at all. I don't think these people had other issues, and that's what took them. It wasn't the MAH therapy that did it, but that's how it was perceived, and that's how it was published. So, and even our FDA had one of these events published on their MAUDE Adverse Event Report showing death from MAH. And it was absolutely bogus, absolutely bogus. If you read the whole thing, you could see why. But bottom of it all is there's never really been anybody harmed when it is done by a trained healthcare professional. This is not something you watch on YouTube because it looks simple and you can illegally get needles and oxygen and figure, well, I'll buy an ozone machine and do it myself. This is, not for people. It's for trained healthcare professionals only.
I also want to let the viewer know that it was the DIV, the direct intravenous gas method, that we took to Sierra Leone for Ebola. And to me, it's the only reasonable way to do it. Ebola is transmitted by contact, and it's extraordinarily dangerous, and any other method but yours entails a lot of contaminated medical waste, which would put people at extremely high risk. The DIV method in this involves only one piece of contamination, and that's the butterfly needle that goes into the vein. Otherwise, the risk of transmission would be quite low, and that's why I was insisting on bringing that method, while some of your detractors in the world who are politically motivated against the DIV method decried it. In any event, this method costs probably $3 per patient, maybe $4 per patient, and 5 of 5 patients made it with Ebola.
Well, keep in mind, I didn't discover direct IV ozone. I just started using it, not knowing there was any controversy here in the world about it. Living in my New York City ozone bubble, and I didn't know there was controversy, so I just used it because it was working. That's all that mattered to me. I was getting results. And over the MAH method, where I improved people, but I didn't get results. And now I was able to treat everyone, not just a percentage of the patients. And for that matter, hyperbaric high dose ozone had been around as a single pass, as they call it, blood coming out, ozonating it, and coming back in. 5 or 6, 7 minutes, that's all it would take. And that was done for 25 years. Until a friend of ours from Austria, Dr. Johann Lahadny, said, well, why stop? Let's keep doing it. And he would pass the blood in and out 10 times. And so we used to call it hyperbaric high dose ozone with Lahadny multipass. But Robert came up with variations of it that were brilliant. And it made it work safer and better, without any doubt. And so I like to call it RMHBO3, Rowen method, hyperbaric high dose ozone.
Well, I still give Lahadny credit, because I didn't have the gonads to go above 4 passes until I got a hold of his work. And then we tried it on me first, and I did fine. Then we did a nurse, and her Lyme neuropathy went away the next day. So we knew we were onto something. We've had the only issues we've had with this are occasional Herxheimer reactions. And I know you can get that too with DIV and a Herxheimer frequently. And that's where that term Herxheimer reaction came, I believe, from the treatment of syphilis with penicillin.
Yes.
When you give the penicillin, the toxic syphilis organism breaks apart, releasing a lot of foreign protein and toxins, and you get an immune reaction to it that's not comfortable. It's like a flu reaction, and you don't feel good. I haven't heard of anyone dying from this, or we wouldn't be doing ozone or antibiotics. But that's only downside I seen from this. And we go out of our way to try to avoid a Herxheimer reaction. On the other hand, patients come in and say, I want the Herxheimer reaction because then I know you're killing them. And then you need the bacteria. And I know you hear that too.
Yeah, it isn't. There's only two. Oh, this is important. I'm glad you brought that up. There's only two reactions you're supposed to have to a treatment, in my opinion. No reaction at all, or you feel better. Any other reaction, I discuss with the patients, and that's the most beautiful thing about this therapy. I don't care what method you use. Everything about it is adjustable. The amount of ozone, the amount, the concentration you use, which arm, which vein, how many times a day or a week do you get it? Do you need days off in between? Everything about it is designed to make it more comfortable for the patient. There's nothing about safety involved here. The safety issue is not the issue. It's about comfort. Because we want to minimize the Herxheimer reaction. Nobody ever mentions Jarisch, the Swiss doctor that came up with it, except me. I think it's fair. Everybody calls it I'm Herxing. I had a Herx, and in a mild to moderate.
Okay, we'll say I had a Jarisch.
No, but it doesn't even work. It doesn't sound great. So, but in any case, mild to moderate ones, you feel fatigue. In a more severe one, you actually have to go to sleep. You just can't stay awake. And as Robert said, in the most severe Herxing, you feel like you're getting flu, chills and muscle achy and malaise and joint achy. And it's gone within a day. And generally speaking, people have two reactions to that. And that's why they like it. They feel like they can paint the house. The energy level is so tremendous when they've had possibly no energy at all, or a slow return to their normal energy again. So it's not a terrible thing, but it's not a wonderful thing either. So we want to minimize it. And what I have my patients do to help with that is, one, drink large amounts of water. For these therapies, I make my patients, I insist that you be very well hydrated. 3 to 4 liters of water a day is recommended. Green juices, just about anything that's healthy. Let's put it that way. Avoid diuretics. We need water in you to clean out, for blood volume for the veins, to clean out the waste. It's just very, very important. And then vitamin C. I have all my patients take vitamin C 5 or 6 doses a day, 1, 2, 3,000 milligrams, because it's only in your body about 2 hours, and then it's urinated out if you absorbed any, and if it's not used, and it's gone. And all of this stopping a couple hours before bedtime because you need your sleep. And because of that, I don't have problems. I have never seen what's called oxidative stress reactions. And if you took, and this is important because I know people are going to say, well, I read this on the internet. If you took vitamin C and put it in a test tube, and you add ozone into the test tube, they're going to react with one another. This is important. They're going to react with one another and negate each other. One is an antioxidant, one is an oxidant. What's interesting about ozone's action, it's almost not to be punny, oxymoron, because when it goes into your blood, it acts as a free radical scavenger. It goes after harmful free radicals, not creating harmful free radicals. So it's acting like an antioxidant, like vitamin C. But vitamin C is necessary in every cell that's healthy in your body for every healthy cellular reaction, including making energy. So how could you not use it? So why, and now I'm going to extend this little bit, why haven't I seen any problems with patients who have to take pharmaceuticals or nutraceuticals, vitamins, minerals, herbs, homeopathy, Ayurvedic, Chinese medicine? Why don't I see a negative reaction between ozone and eliminating those pharmaceuticals or nutraceuticals? And that, because technically, if you put them in a test tube, there would be a reaction. Ozone is one of the most reactive molecules there is. And the answer is this: there's so much junk in our blood. And when we put these medicines and whatnot, if you want to call it all that, in our blood, ozone is only going to meet a very small amount of them. So I have never seen blood titers change in pharmaceuticals when we did measure them. And thus, you're benefiting from whatever pharmaceutical you have to take or need to take. You're benefiting from whatever the nutraceuticals are that you're taking, and you're not having an adverse effect take place because you're shooting ozone in, so you don't have to stop using it all. And keep in mind, it's another thing. Blood is not homogeneous. It's not a container of milk. It's more like a container of orange juice where you get water on top, then the juice, and then the pulp. Okay, shake it like you mean it, so you make it homogeneous. So ozone is going to meet different things in your body on any given treatment, no matter what method you use, and that's why, and this I feel is important, there is no average. There is no typical and there is no usual number of treatments to really eliminate any problem in any one person. We're all individual that way. We have individual amounts of all these different things and medical problems, and ozone is going to react with all of them. You can't whisper in its ear like a guided missile. Hey, go after HSV1, herpes today. Leave these other bacterias that don't belong there alone. Doesn't work that way. It's got to go after everything that doesn't belong in your body and eliminate it.
I want to point out a couple things. I want to explain a couple mechanisms. One, when we're treating with ozone reacts with whatever it touches instantly, and the ozone is vaporized. It's gone. What it does, though, is when it reacts, it leaves a bunch of molecules behind, downstream metabolites called ozonides. Those metabolites are what trigger the body to do what we want to do, because we might only be treating a small amount of blood, but that creates products of reaction which have a catalytic effect on the body, these ozonides. Would you agree?
Oh, well, Bacci's research showed that when ozone meets a protein in our body called glutathione, and I always tell people, please don't buy the oral versions of it because they're almost completely, if not 100%, destroyed in the stomach when you try to swallow it. But when ozone meets glutathione in your blood, there's a chemical reaction, because ozone's gone probably in about 10 minutes. It's used up.
It's actually faster than that. The ozone's gone in milliseconds.
But all these, your own immune system has now been boosted to work for a couple of hours more according to Bacci. It creates reactive oxygen species, as they're called.
Yes.
Alkenes, alkanes, peroxides, peroxyls, superoanions, and on and on. And then it also creates lipid oxidation products, alpha and beta interferon, interleukins number 2, 6, 7, and 8, and tumor necrosis factor, another interleukin. And that's why we're able to get rid of viruses, and why it fights cancer so well, and why it gets rid of all these other things as, in addition that we've mentioned earlier. So your own body is really doing the work, stimulated by the ozone to do so.
And the viewer may not know, but in 2003, the very famous Scripps Institute in Southern California reported that our bodies actually make ozone. And you're going to say, well, how does it do that? Well, the body is able to make a reactive form of oxygen called singlet oxygen. The immune system of the body, your white blood cells, generate reactive oxygen species. Oxygen, they're in fact even free radicals, but these are reactive oxygen species. Among them are hypochlorous acid, hydrogen peroxide, singlet oxygen, and even ozone. And it hurls these at the invaders. Now, organisms have had 4 billion years to get resistant to oxidants, and they haven't done it. Because if they did, we wouldn't be here. We'd have been long gone. So we're dealing with a therapy that induces natural germicides, not antibiotics, natural germicides, which wipe out the infecting organism on contact, literally blows a hole in them. But our body is made to do this so that our cells have natural resistance to this, which is why it is an ideal therapy. And I have published repeatedly on the use of ozone for infection. You can go to PubMed.com, type in my name, Rowen, Rowen, and ozone, and you will see a whole lot of articles that I've published. Unfortunately, the Ebola one was not in a journal that's indexed on PubMed, but if you typed in my name or Robin's name and the word ozone and Ebola, it would take you to the African Journal of Infectious Diseases, and you can see this. And this multitude of effects of ozone are well described in the articles that I or we have published. So ozone, to me, is an ideal therapy in an age where the World Health Organization, the corrupt World Health Organization, has said we're facing an unprecedented crisis in medicine today because of superbugs. And this just came out in the last week, and I addressed it in my Substack. I for those of you, most of you know that I write a column on Substack. And they're calling for billions of investments in more chemicals when we've got something that's anybody can do it. All you need is a machine that makes ozone and medical grade oxygen and somebody who knows how to do this. And the germs don't get resistant to this. I just had a case, and Robbins, I know you treat a lot of infection, but you just saw the case I had of a terrible infection on the guy's back. There was pus, cellulitis, even lymphangitis. And you saw this guy, and we just injected ozone all around it, and he refused to take an antibiotic, and he got better.
Oh, I've lectured on wound care. Wound care with ozone is like inexpensive and fast. We do in days what takes weeks, and weeks what takes months, and sometimes fix things that wounds and ulcers and gangrene that normally wouldn't be fixed otherwise. It's amazing what we can do. I just want everybody to understand one thing. A man, I won't say his name because I don't think it's totally appropriate anymore, but there was a very well-known, very famous functional medicine doctor, and he was very, very ill. I didn't know who he was, came over, I fixed him. I got rid of it, possibly even saved his life.
Lyme disease, I believe.
I don't remember, but what he did was he opened up an opportunity and asked me, would I like to come to the Cleveland Clinic, where they have a functional medicine department that he was head of, and speak to the heads of research there. And I knew I was in trouble because I'm a frontline clinical doctor. I had to learn a lot of the academics, the science. My compadre here, he is the academic. He is brilliant. So I knew he had to come and make that presentation, and I just stood alongside him so I'd get some of the applause. But I had to bring him for the presentation because he can speak their language. These heads of research who had their nose way up in the air because of who they were at the Cleveland Clinic. And they actually gave us permission to do a study on chronic fatigue syndrome at the Cleveland Clinic that was going to cost $1.5 to $2 million, and that wasn't the problem. We ran into one stumbling block. They required at the Cleveland Clinic that the ozone generators that we use, the medical ozone generators, have what's called, I think, an IND, which is basically FDA approval, which you're not going to get, and that's what killed it. But the reason they gave us the permission to do this was because Robert made such a brilliant academic thing, and I think it was the scripts. That's what reminded me of it. That one slide you showed about scripts showing that we make it in our body, that I think may have won them over. And then as we left, the head of rheumatology there says, well, all these studies that you showed us are published in tier 2 and tier 3 journals. We only publish in tier 1 journals. We have tried to get papers published in Lancet and JAMA, Journal of American Medicine. They don't accept papers from people like us, doctors like us. You have to be the heads of research at the major institutions before they'll accept the paper. And we published on things.
The deck is stacked against natural medicine, which
Without
is
a
why
doubt.
you don't see this stuff published in major journals. And then we're criticized for it. I'll give you a first-hand example. I was first author on the Ebola article. You were second author. I tried to submit that to 2 major journals. BMJ was one of them, British Medical Journal. And what I got back from them was, oh, we don't think that this is going to be of interest to our general practice physician readers. Well, so they rejected it. And a couple months later, they published an article on an Ebola vaccine that was of more interest, I guess, to their GP, general practitioner readers than an overt cure for Ebola was. This is what we face in medicine today. The system is corrupt.
Well, got to be fair. These people are in business to make a living so they can send their kids to college. And they get a huge amount of the money they make from promoting pharmaceuticals. And if they were to promote something that would eliminate the need possibly for half or more of the pharmaceuticals that are out there, they're going to lose their funding. And how do you make your living? How do you get your paycheck? It's not about morals and ethics. It's about money. Because if they were moral and ethical, they would publish our articles in a heartbeat. But as they say, a New York second. But it's unfortunate that money rules, and that's why you don't see it. And let's take this one step farther then, since you opened up that can of worms, Robert. So it's January of 2020, and we hear about what's going on in China at one of Robert's, he does group trainings, I do one-on-ones, and I'm out there working with him, and we're talking about this thing called COVID-19. And I say, this should be easy to fix with ozone. Let's write a paper. So we wrote a paper called A Plausible Penny-Costing Effective Treatment for COVID-19. And it was published in the Journal of Infectious Diseases and Epidemiology, which I believe is on the NIH site, National Library of Medicine, pubmed.gov. And it was published on March 6th of 2020, a full week before it became a pandemic. Now we tried to get the word out. Okay, now it's a pandemic. We want to get the word out. So just a few quickies. One, I went, a legislator who I'm friends with out near where I live brought me to a meeting where the television, everybody was there with the head of the Department of Health of the county that I live in. And when I came up to him at the end of that television thing that they did talking about how they're going to deal with the epidemic, I wanted to hand him a copy of the paper. He put his hands up like this and says, I won't take that from you because I will lose it between the time I get into my car and back to my office. Okay. So then we went on a campaign to try to get it into newspapers. And I wrote to here, Newsday and the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times, the San Francisco Chronicle. No reaction. So then we sent it to every editor, not just the head editor, but now we sent it to the sports. I sent it to sports editors, virtually everybody you could send it to. Hopefully somebody was going to be interested in it. Nothing. Then I had this legislator got a man from one of the local television cable stations. He was a reporter going to interview me, and he's coming by on a Friday to interview me. He never showed up. So I called him up Saturday. Where are you? And on Saturday, he said, well, I've been kind of busy. Maybe I can get there a little late. I said, wait a minute. You've been told to kill the story, haven't you? He goes, yes. And that ended that. But we didn't let it go. Wait a minute, Robert. Robert then went and contacted people, and he found a daily news, big newspaper in New York, a daily news reporter who was going to get this out. And
a famous reporter.
Yes. And when I told her what happened with these other people, she got very angry. Oh, we're reporters. We're not controlled by this, blah, blah, blah. Well, when she interviews Robert, she writes up a whole thing about it, and she wants to get it published. Her editor killed it. Absolutely not. They're only interested in vaccination. So then we wanted to get this to the President of the United States. At that time, it was Donald Trump. And it happens that his ex-wife number 2, Marla Maples, who I'm allowed to say that, she's a good friend and patient, and she got a copy of the paper there, to his people at least. Robert also, through people that he knew, got a copy of the paper to President Trump. And we know that somebody told him something about it because he went on television and was recorded saying, well, maybe we can kill this virus by injecting bleach into your blood. And that was the closest he got to the thought that about what we were trying to get across.
Words to that effect. I don't know if those were the exact words, but yes, he used that. Then he was vilified in the press for it, but he was absolutely correct. He didn't know it, and unfortunately he spoke from ignorance, forgivable ignorance, and instead of people investigating this, he was skewered by this. Our blood creates hypochlorous acid to fight infection. That's bleach. Well, actually, bleach is sodium hypochlorite. Our bloods generate hydrogen hypochlorite. Same thing, basically, same effect. So Trump was right. My paperwork got to his people, and he really may not have known what he had, and I'm told by his people, he passed it off to subordinates. He had it, passed it off to subordinates who should have done their job, but they round-filed it. So people died. I want to add that Larkin Hospital in Florida tried their best to get a study on ozone, and Howard and I were part of their think tank, and the FDA destroyed it. How did they destroy it? I mean, this would have changed the world. They destroyed it by saying, oh, we want to see safety study on animals. Well, wait a minute. Ozone has been around since the late 1800s. Safe. No one has ever reported any danger despite thousands of articles. And in the middle of a pandemic, when they're giving people toxic chemicals, toxic drugs, and a vaccine that was never tested, that was dangerous, they were demanding animal safety studies that are quite expensive on a method that has been known for over a century to be basically 100% safe. This is our government-owned lock, stock, and barrel by the pharmaceuticals and other multinational corporate interests. And that's what we're facing today.
Before we jump back into our discussion, I want to remind you about the amazing health benefits of ozone therapy with Simply O3's home systems. Imagine feeling increased well-being, sharper mental clarity, and less inflammation after just one treatment. The Simply O3 3.0 Complete Kit lets you experience these benefits in the comfort of your own home. It's equipped with laboratory-grade materials to ensure safety and efficacy. This kit offers thousands of treatments and is far more cost-effective than clinic visits. Don't forget to use the code in the description at simplyo3.com for 10% off. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to PROMOLIFE. If you haven't heard of them, they're leading the game in ozone therapy. Crafted with care right here in the USA, their ozone generators are top-notch. Beyond that, they've got a full lineup of accessories that truly opens up the world of ozone in innovative ways. To support this podcast and check out what they have to offer, you can visit them at www.promolife.com/ozone. And as a little perk for you, our listeners, there's an exclusive discount code waiting for you in the podcast description below.
Well, I will add to that, just to back up what you just said a little bit more. A few years ago, just as the pandemic began, I brought an ozone generator donated by the Zotzman Company to Tufts University Medical School's research department, who will be publishing this year on Lyme disease. The Global Lyme Alliance came up with $1.25 million to pay for the research that would be done on mice first. And it showed the success was tremendous once they finally got up and running after COVID was over, and they're supposed to be publishing on it this year. Now they're putting together, because I'll be part of it, a $2 million grant to go to the Primate Research Center in Oregon, where they'll be doing, again, intravenous ozone now for the primates, which I'm not happy about, but they have to do it this way because without doing animal research first, you can't do what Robert and I have been doing for 30-something years, human research, so to speak, in our office. And but the key is to get FDA approval for ozone therapy for the treatment of Borrelia burgdorferi minimoti, which is what they were testing, and showed amazing benefits to. And so, yes, you have to follow through that way to get an FDA approval for things. But in the middle of a pandemic, who has millions of dollars that they're going to come up with for this kind of thing? Certainly not individuals.
But it was okay for them to give untested genetic alteration to people. That was okay. Untested, unverified, lie about it. And then they vilified people like me and censored me and others for speaking out about this when we went against the government paradigm. And I want to add one other thing politically. We have now high Democratic Party officials now calling for the end of the First Amendment. John Kerry says that we need to rein in misinformation. Well, I was telling the truth about the vaccine and the truth about ozone's capability for this, and I was censored both by YouTube and Facebook, which is why I left Facebook and started Substack, and now Zuckerberg has come out and admitted immoral, unconstitutional pressure from the government for them to censor us. This is what we're facing right now. And I believe when they get this, and I think it's a matter of when, that's the end of our country.
Well, I want to defend the FDA for a minute. You have an overworked, understaffed organization that gets government pressure to permit a vaccine in a form that they have never once permitted. They've always permitted vaccines, for example, with weakened viruses.
Yeah.
And that testing is one thing. But mRNA vaccines...
That's not a vaccine. That's not a vaccine. That's a genetic alteration.
It has never been permitted by the FDA for the treatment of anything because there have never been safety tests that they demand to prove the long-term safety of it. And so they did not approve those vaccines for use. They permitted it. That's their way out. They not only permitted it, but the government gave the companies that making it a free ride, saying, well, if you kill people in the future, no matter how many it is, it's okay. You can't get sued. You don't have to worry about it. So they were able to put this out. So basically speaking, these injections, these jabs, these sticks that you got, call it vaccine or not, was never approved by the FDA. Only permitted, accepted to be used for that. And so that's their defense. But they're an overworked, understaffed organization that just can't easily do their job. It's just not an easy job to do, to watch over everything that comes out. And And they're paid by the
agreement with
pharmaceutical
you.
company to approve these things.
Exactly. Pharma has infected the FDA. I want to add one other thing about ozone, and then we're going to have to move on to this product.
Sure.
You and I both are speaking at a couple meetings coming up, and the topic of my talk is on ozone and aging, and you're going to be covering part of that too.
Yep.
And I want to mention one other aspect of ozone for the viewer, and I'll be putting this out on Substack in my premium section as well. One of the other effects of ozone is to activate a genetic pathway called NRF2, nuclear erythroid factor 2, which is a genetic controlling switch for the manufacture of SOD, which is a genetic controlling factor for the manufacture of SOD, superoxide dismutase, glutathione peroxidase, catalase, and others. So you give an oxidant and you upregulate your defense system. NRF2 is implicated in powerful anti-aging pathways and support of our body. SOD is implicated in protecting your telomeres, of all things, the end cap of DNA. Protect them and you're younger. I think that ozone is the premier anti-aging strategy that's cheap, can be done at home. There's advertisers for ozone machines on this podcast. You can do it rectally, which works. It's not as effective as what we do, but it works, and you would agree with that, right?
Absolutely.
Great literature on this. So I want to add that this is one of the key methods of ozones or biochemical effects of ozone on us and retarding aging. And I'm looking at you, Howard, and I'm looking at your face, as ugly as it might be, but I just see nice, rather healthy skin. And it would be difficult for a person looking at you to tell your age, I think.
Well, just put aside one thing about ugly faces. The two of us would make a woolly mammoth's nose look small. But
Yeah.
Take a look. No one, I'm 76 years old. I do not dye my hair. No one at my age, either on either side of the family, has a full head of hair, semi-dark that is, at my age right now. And there is no doubt that, you're dealing with two things with anti-aging. You're dealing with your chronologic age and your epidemiological age. And when you see the energy, I sleep 4.5 hours a night. That's the most I ever get, or I should say need. And fact is, when you take a look at different people, you see people in their 50s that look like they're in their 70s or 80s, and people in their 70s who look like they're in their 50s and act like it. And that's because epidemiologically, their body has not aged as much. And stress reduction and all these other things that we do is the reason why. And now I just got I said the scientist here, the academic. So now I know I can put some NRF2 slides into my presentation. I had no idea. I just know it slows the aging process.
No. Leave those out. I came up with that, Howard. You let me present these, or I'm not going to do your work for you anymore. Okay?
Or I'm not going to talk much about it. I'll mention it in passing. One quick slide and I'm gone. I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit.
You better give me credit.
I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit. I found out on a podcast why it works.
Since we were joking about me being the academic of the group and you going to take some of my information, I just want to let the group know that in spite of all the ozone political opposition against you for doing DIV, I was the one who dug up some literature on why your method of DIV might be superior to every other method but mine. And you recall that when we were in Cuba, I shocked everybody, and I even shocked people at a major ozone meeting in the United States, that the introduction intravenous of oxygen gas has an enormous beneficial healing effect by stimulating anti-inflammatory enzymes, anti-cancer enzymes, and upregulating many processes of the body. So your method is giving gaseous oxygen in the vein, and the presence of those tiny oxygen bubbles stimulates really good healing beneficial actions on the body. And I got to rib you, Howard, you didn't even know this until I brought it to you, right?
I knew it worked. I didn't know why.
Okay.
And just to back that up, a medical doctor from Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn, this was put up, I believe, either in the Daily News or the New York Post or both, during COVID, got COVID, shot himself up with intravenous oxygen. Didn't know anything about ozone, but shot himself up and cured himself of COVID with just intravenous oxygen, and it made the newspapers. That made the newspapers because he was a doctor in Maimonides and whatever.
I remember that. So, for the viewer, regarding ozone, we're going to move on to this probiotic product, which I like. But for the viewer, Howard Robbins has a rather inexpensive method of ozone delivery, which is terrific. It's safe. It works. The one thing I don't like about it is it can be irritating to the vein, where the method I use is not irritating to the vein, but my method's a bit more expensive because of the equipment used. And the message of this is, it doesn't really matter how you do ozone. Just getting ozone into your system, even if it's ear ozone, rectal ozone, drinking ozonized water, all of this is going to be of benefit to you in the long run. And if you're sick, then I would say, yes, go to one of the blood methods of ozone. Howard, would you concur with that synopsis?
Totally and completely. And I use both the direct IV and the hyperbaric dose and hemalumin in the office because I'm not limited to one or the other. Nobody can control me. And I see the value of it. For those that can afford the 10 pass, they get 10 pass in addition to DIV. So we're always attacking their problem.
And if you want to do this at home, you can. There are sponsors of this program that Lucas will share with you before and after this presentation. So now I want to move on to this and give you some minutes to talk about it. I'm going to be drinking this right now so everybody will see I don't drop dead. This is a living probiotic with billions and billions of organisms.
Yep, Doctor's Biome Gut Health. So why do I have
billions of organisms,
this?
And I'm going to drink it right now. You got to tell them why you did this and why it's better, or why you think it's better.
Okay, so I see many people with that have various digestive diseases and disorders. Acid reflux, stomach digestive problems, colitis, ulcerative colitis, duodenitis, ileitis, irritable bowel, leaky gut, Crohn's disease, C. difficile, so many different types of digestive diseases and disorders. And what's the reason that ozone attacks all these harmful organisms that are causing this and can kill off all these harmful bacteria that people have, including excessive yeast, candidiasis, which virtually everyone suffers from because they've had antibiotics even once in their lifetime, or they eat red meat or chicken that isn't organic or farm-raised fish. So even if you burn the meat, you're getting uncooked out doses of antibiotics. And antibiotics very, very rapidly kill all the healthy biome that's in your gut. 90% of your immune system comes from your gut. Mesenchymal stem cells, the majority of your stem cells come from your gut. You have to absorb all the supplements you take, the pharmaceuticals you could take, the food that you eat, all the nutrition that you take through your gut. So if you have an unhealthy gut, it ain't going to work. And the gut connects to every organ and every system in your body. There's the gut-brain axis that causes depression and anxiety if it's not healthy. The gut-mouth axis, you can't have a healthy mouth, healthy teeth and gums if you don't have a healthy gut, and vice versa. If you don't have a healthy mouth, you can't have a healthy gut either. It controls diabetes and whether you're going to get it or not. Hundreds and hundreds of papers written on these things. There's the gut cancer axis. You can get cancer if you don't have a healthy gut, and you can't easily treat cancer effectively if you don't have a healthy gut. We've lectured on that. Weight loss. You want to lose weight? You got to have a healthy gut, or just diet and exercise alone isn't going to be as effective. Autism. There's a gut autism that's, again, in the brain axis that affects autism. I'm treating an autistic child right now. So the gut is key in the body, and thus you need healthy biome, healthy microbiome, healthy probiotics. And definition is if it's truly going, not just the bacteria, but if it's a probiotic, that means it's a bacteria that will confer a health benefit on you. And if you don't get a health benefit from it, then it's not a probiotic. And they're throwing probiotics today in everything. So ozone kills all bacteria, just not as instantly as antibiotics do. So I had to find a probiotic that would work. And through years of doing this, basically, there wasn't anything of real quality out there, and that's what I was finding. Real problems with that. So I found a company that actually was making something that was living, but never testing it for safety, and I found this out after 11 years. The product tasted terrible, it smelled horrible, but it did work. But I found out it was a mom and pop operation that never tested it for safety, which is a legal requirement, if not a moral and ethical one. And when I found that out, I had to stop using it. And then I found a company that was willing, and I had to become part of it. So open disclosure, I had to buy into the company. And after 3 food scientists, including Dr. Reza Kamari, who has a PhD from MIT in food science with a specialty in probiotics, we were able to create what's called Doctor's Biome, gut health. And basically it has 15 patented strains, so it has letters and numbers after their name, of next generation bacteria, okay? Next generation bacteria are created to survive the stomach acids and bile salts in the small intestine, over 90%, whereas capsule, powder, and tablet probiotics are put into suspended animation, so to speak, when they're freeze-dried, destroyed, unfortunately, in the freeze-drying process quite a bit, so that they can't easily come back to life when you drink them with some water. Then the stomach acids finish off the job. According to Professor Eliav and Professor Segal from the Weizmann Institute in Israel, they claim it's 100% destroyed. They did a very famous study following the pills and tablets through with endoscopy and colonoscopy, and then measuring what was in the feces, something none of us should ever do, and examine your feces. They found capsules weren't even open. So the next thing was, so now you have these 15 patented strains. You got to keep them alive in what? Well, that's called prebiotics. Prebiotics are actually the food for probiotics. So we found a 100% organic mint, kale, lettuce, cucumber, celery, apple, lemon juice with the fiber, which is the food for the bacteria to eat. So they're living from day one, growing in number every day into the mega billions. They start at 27 billion within a few weeks there from the date on the bottle, which is a date of manufacture, not expiration. They're growing in number into the 50, 60, 70 billion range within a month, between 100 and 200 billion, what they call CFUs, colony forming units. So this is a very powerful formula, but that wasn't enough. We found the key to it is they have to stick to the wall of your gut. That's where they're needed the most. Otherwise, they float through, they aid digestion. That's why you find acidophilus, which is found in yogurt and kimchi and sauerkraut, aid digestion, but they don't stick to the wall of the gut because the bacteria look like my index fingers. They're called rods. They look like sticks. We need the kind that are have like hands and feet that can grab onto and stick onto the wall. They're actually yeast-like in structure. So they had to find smart probiotics. So now you needed next generation bacteria that were also created into smart probiotics. It's actually a real thing. They didn't go to Harvard or Yale. They actually stick to the wall of the gut and they change what's called their genetic expression, so they can live and play well with each other in that colon sandbox and make a happy home there for you. They're killing off the bad bacteria that we're ingesting every day in our food and things we drink, and getting yeast back in balance again. You never want to get rid of yeast, but you got to get it in balance. That boosts your T cell system, which fights all the viral infections, yeast and fungal infections as well, and creates a healthy gut once again. And that's why this was necessary, because I'm killing off the good boys too. I had to find something that would work. And now for women who have urinary tract infections frequently and whatnot, they created what they call, and men can get it too if they get UTIs, Doctor's BIOME Woman's Health, because it also has the same bacteria, but also cranberry. And that, all these bacteria are living in a 100% organic, watermelon, pomegranate, beet, strawberry juice, 100% organic with the added organic cranberry. And studies, I'm published in the Journal of Gastroenterology Research, showing full suppression of C. diff in vitro, beneficial effects on every digestive disease and disorder. I'm published in 2 other medical journals showing complete suppression of E. coli, as well as complete suppression of candida in vitro. And that means in test tubes. And now clinically we see the beneficial effects on people. It's just absolutely amazing product. And it's delicious. Children can take it. This is important. Babies are born, you probably don't know this, but babies are born without any healthy bacteria in their gut. Now, if they exit the mom's birth canal, a natural childbirth, they pick up some. All the rest of the biome that they get, they're going to get if the mother breastfeeds. Mm-hmm. Now, what's the problem? Because there's a gut-breast axis. If the mother doesn't have a healthy gut, she isn't going to give the baby any healthy biome. So you have to have a healthy mom's gut to give the baby a healthy gut. And that's why kids, if they can get healthy biome, a stronger gut, won't get sick as easily. They'll digest their food better. They'll absorb the nutrients better. They'll grow in size. So they won't be at the lower percentiles, more likely at the higher percentiles. Studies have shown that microbiome in pregnancy is not only safe, but you get healthier birth weights, an easier childbirth. I mean, there's numerous studies showing benefits, and unfortunately, the benefits that these studies show are mixed, and it confuses doctors. Well, why should some studies show some benefits and other studies show minimal benefits or none at all? And the answer is because they're using probiotics that don't work. They're dead. They're in freeze-dried capsule powder and tablet state, and they're not working. And when they do get enough of it, and enough of them do come back to life, that's why they're showing some benefits. Well, here you have something that's enormously beneficial, and you can give it to babies. After baby is so many months old and you're starting to feed them from formula, you can add some of this, or just give it to them straight, which is probably better, in a little medicine dropper to suck on. It's delicious. They'll love it. Young children can get smaller doses. They don't have to take that 2-ounce shot that you saw Robert take. So as they get older, they're less likely to get colds and ear infections and all these other problems, and absorb their nutrients that you're feeding them better, so their supplements better, so they grow healthier and stronger and faster, and reach optimal growth, not minimal growth. It's a unique product, and within a decade, it's being sold literally all over the world now, all throughout the EU, through Nutrined.com, in Singapore, it's soon in Malaysia, and of course, all over here in the US. They give it 100% money back guarantee. In fact, it's better than that. If you try it and for some reason you can't take it or you don't like it, you let the company know. They'll give you your money back, and they'll tell you keep the product and give it to someone else who might benefit from it. They don't need you to send it back to them. Just keep it and give it to somebody else, because somebody else may benefit from it as well. I think
that's impressive. I will add that we use the product in our office. Our patients like it. It's not 100%, as nothing is 100%. Ozone's not 100%, but they come back and they continue taking it, and they do like it. They like it better than other probiotics they've taken. So I want to thank you for engineering a really fine product. I want to make a comment too. We're going to have to get off soon, Howard, because we're approaching our time. I don't think, my science mind is operational again. I don't think that ozone administered your way or my way knocks off the biome. Why? Because ozone would have to be in direct contact with the fecal matter, with the digestive matter, direct contact to knock off the biome. Maybe it will do so in the rectum, but that doesn't bother me either, because fecal material loaded with organisms is going to come down and replenish the rectum. So I don't think that ozone, I get this question all the time from people. Well, isn't going to this knock out my biome? Logically speaking, scientifically speaking, I don't think so, because you're not getting direct contact of the gas inside the gut. Comment.
It makes sense. Yet we're fixing all these digestive diseases and disorders all the time. So something is happening with ozone intravenously with the immune system, and maybe it's our own immune system that's killing all this off. But I don't know that our own immune system can differentiate between a good boy and a bad boy.
I think it does.
Well, you know what? You may be right. But it's one of those things where I can't prove you right and I can't prove you wrong.
Right.
That's why taking a supplement is so valuable. And I have to also add, this is not an inexpensive product. It's been tried by many people to be made, and it doesn't work. There's no alcohol, there's no sugar, there's basically nothing in it that you don't want. You don't. Hopefully they'll be able to get a coupon code from you. That'll give them a discount off the cost. And they also can go on auto ship, and they get an additional discount, which is a wonderful thing.
That's
and they can
nice.
cancel anytime. So whatever we're doing with intravenous ozone, with all the different methods, it's definitely having a very, very powerful effect on all these digestive diseases. And thus you have to put good boys back in. Listen, is there a God or not? Do you want to be, as one very famous person says, I'm just hedging on the possibility there may be one.
Yeah.
Better to do it than not do it. And we do know the benefits that people have are tremendous. But again, 100% money back plus guarantee. What have you got to lose?
That sounds great. We only have a few minutes left, and I always like our producer to come on and get his input and questions as a layman. Lucas?
So I'll keep it brief here. I do just want to start by letting the audience know that we always post a link to Dr. Rowen's slideshow presentation and his published works in the description of each episode. So go take a look at that if you want to read more or look at the slideshow that Dr. Robbins mentioned earlier on. But no, otherwise, I mean, you've answered all the questions I was going to ask you about the probiotics there, how you take it, what it does, what's in it. But we covered all that, so I don't have any questions this time around, and we are running short on time. But go ahead.
May I offer some contact information for me?
Please.
Please, yes.
Okay, so you can listen to my podcast on voiceamerica.com, Health and Wellness Channel, Voice America, voiceamerica.com, Health and Wellness Channel, Functional Medicine with Dr. Robbins. I just started putting the same Functional Medicine with Dr. Robbins on videos. You get to see my face on YouTube, same title. And if you need to speak with me, call my office in Manhattan at 212-581-0101, 212-581-0101. And I can't tell you how happy I am to see your face and to have me on as a guest. It's an honor and a privilege.
I feel the same way to have you, Dr. Robbins. I am grateful that you came on the show. So that wraps it up.
Perfect. And we'll get the contact info in the description as well. So anyone who might have trouble hearing will be able to copy and paste. As we conclude today's episode, consider the long-term health investment with Simply O3's ozone therapy systems. Designed for easy and safe home use, the Simply O3 3.0 Complete Kit comes with a lifetime warranty and a 6-month money-back guarantee. That's right. Try it risk-free for 6 months and experience firsthand the reduction in brain fog, inflammation, and more. If you're not satisfied, receive a full refund. Ready to take control of your health? Visit simply03.com. I'd also like to give another shout out to our sponsors over at shopc60.com. If you haven't heard of C60, it's that antioxidant known to enhance mitochondrial function and combat inflammation. Many seeing C60 with their keto and intermittent fasting regimens, seeing a boost in energy and clarity. If you're past 40 and looking to refresh your vitality, explore shopc60.com. And don't forget the 15% off code in the description for your initial purchase.